So thank you so much for joining me this morning. I know it's lunchtime, your time in Indiana.
Yeah.
But this is Dr. Katie Schoenberg. We went to grad school together and she was my nearest and dearest role model and mentor. So I'm really excited that you're here today. I haven't seen you in a long time.
Yeah.
Fun. Thinking about grad school, we went to Cornell together. You're a fellow animal scientist. One of the coolest things about you is that you have so many different research experiences, worked with a lot of different animals, and you've always had a really cool knack of finding interesting ways to answer research questions. So I'm curious from your experience, what was one of your favorite research questions that you were obsessed about at the time?
Ooh, that's a really great question. So the whole purpose of my PhD program was to kind of understand glucose and insulin signaling around the time of calving in dairy cattle. So think of it at a high level, kind of like looking at diabetes in dairy cows. And so that there's a lot of complicated signals and systems that are involved with that. And probably one of the core pieces or core questions we had to ask very early on in the program was, how are we going to actually measure that? So that was actually part of my PhD program, in that what tests should we do? What endpoints should we be looking at? Some of it we looked at in blood, some of it we looked at in tissue. So I think that was one of my favorite parts of the research was, how are we going to do the research? And that was we did some work to figure that out early on in my program, and compared even side by side two different tests, for example, a glucose tolerance test and an insulin clamp, and kind of compared the answers that we got from those. And I think that was a lot of fun, because it not only was informing the overall research question, but like just the question of, how are we going to do the research and get it done? So that was probably one of my favorite parts of it.
So why would you study this in the first place? Like, what does glucose and insulin do to a cow when they're about to calve?
Yeah, so it basically, the changes that they have in their glucose and insulin affect the cow's susceptibility to other problems that they have around calving as well. And ultimately, what those other conditions and diseases can do is, cause the animal to be sick and have to be treated, or cause her to, in the case of dairy cows, not produce as much milk. And so one little tweak in the glucose and insulin system can affect their susceptibility to these other things, which are ultimately what affect the cow's overall health and production. So that's why that's why we were asking the research questions that we were.
One of the things that I've always found interesting, especially talking to kids, like younger kids, like where milk comes from, when you start to talk about like mammals, I think one thing that we kind of lose sometimes is that in order for a cow to make milk, they have to have a baby. So having very healthy pregnancies and having a healthy process of calving and giving birth is really essential to having a very healthy cow during lactation.
Yeah,
so,
absolutely.
Yeah. What were some other like moments that really kept you motivated in grad school?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's just a camaraderie that you create with your fellow graduate students, because you, quite frankly, are working so hard together, and at times commiserating, right, about that intensity, and you just and you're all sort of in a very similar place, and that you're working very hard and you're working on these degrees. yet you often, as we experience, right, you're coming from all over the world in most instances. And so you're creating this common experience now, but with all of these diverse backgrounds and experiences. So I just remember, sitting around together, whether it be at seminars or happy hours, and just sharing stories and getting to know each other, learning from each other. Those are the moments that I look back on and stand out for me. I mean, those were some of the best years of my life, right? And so there's that family, right, that you create. And then I was also grateful that I also had a great support system in my advisor and his family, and some of the faculty members that I worked very closely with, right? So they were very nurturing and encouraging, and took us to their family vacation spots. And
college, how did you find a support system to help you out through college?
That was I had a couple of avenues for that. One was actually my housing arrangement. So I lived in what was called a cooperative house in my last 3 years as an undergraduate. And so that was, it was a house with, I think there were like 14 or 15 girls, this big, beautiful house. We had some singles in the house, some double rooms in the house, but we managed the house together. So there was a house manager, which I actually had that position for 2 years, I believe it was. And we used to divvy up chores around the house, and kind of do just a lot of the regular maintenance on the house. And we were obviously all living together. So that was a huge support system for me. A lot of great long-lasting friendships came from that. And then I also had, I wasn't really active as an undergrad in terms of like getting involved in a ton of stuff that isn't my personality type. But I did have one club that I was a part of and actually helped form. It was, we were called CHAPS, the Cornell Horse and Pony Society. And basically at the time there wasn't an equestrian or horse-centric club at Cornell. So a couple of folks that I was friends with kind of took it upon themselves to create that, and I was kind of part of that group. So that was another kind of social support system that I had as well.
So do you still like horses now?
I do, yeah. So I own a horse. He's basically in retirement now, which is great because I don't have a ton of time to ride anymore. But I get out every so often and groom him and get my barn fixed every once in a while. But yeah, it's something that I've been able to keep up quickly.
Oh, wow. I think that's one of the interesting things. My parents didn't go to college. And so going into college, I kind of just thought it was like kind of like an extension of high school. Like you go to class and then that's it. I didn't really think that there was all these other things. So that was one of the coolest things. So yeah, you were involved with like horses. You kept up with that while you were at Cornell. Is there anything else outside of classes that you did at Cornell in college and maybe grad school?
Well, my work in extension that I already mentioned. So when I was an undergraduate, I worked part-time during the semester, and then I actually worked full-time for the Cooperative Extension Office one summer doing some programming for them as well. And the staff members there were just amazing, right? So that was even another support system that I had, and a group of people that was really supportive of me throughout my undergraduate career. And then in graduate school, I was actively involved in the graduate student associations, both where I did my master's at the University of Maryland and then back at Cornell for my PhD. So yeah, just getting to know the other graduate students in the department was always really helpful in those graduate student associations too.
Yeah, one of the other fond memories of you is you introduced me to Cornell hockey. I thought that was the most interesting thing that college had a hockey team, because I'm from North Carolina and we don't have ice around.
Yeah.
But yeah, those were really fun times.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I've kept that up as well. So my husband is also Cornellian, as you obviously know, Kristen, and we are, teaching our 2 young daughters how to be Lina faithful. They are almost as rabid fans as we are, and so we still travel to see Cornell hockey games and support the team, and even support some of the players who are playing professionally now. And yeah, that's another Cornell family that we've definitely have many fond memories and have been able to keep connected.
Yeah, going to a hockey game with you, you definitely feel super popular. Like everyone knows you guys, and it's like, oh, this is nice. The popular kids at the hockey rink. Do you still do something on the ice now?
Yes. So actually, my husband plays a little rec hockey here locally. And since we moved to Indiana, we actually both have learned how to curl. So we are active members of the Circle City Curling Club, a very active curling club that we have here in the Indianapolis area. And I love it. My husband does too. I've gone and competed at a couple of Bonspiels, we call them, essentially curling matches. Bonspiels, yes. Here in the Midwest, have had a ton of fun. That's a new social circle and support network we've been able to build here in the area since we moved here. And, curling is a great social activity. I was also shocked when I first learned that it's also a great workout as well. So it's a great sport to be a part of if you have opportunity to.
Yeah, I don't know if you remember this, when I moved to Oregon, I found out that there is actually an ice rink just for curling out here in kind of where we live, out in Beaverton area. And so I did like a little intro to curling course. So it was like 4 weeks, went out and curling. I was really good at throwing the rocks. I have great precision aim. But I wiped out a lot with the sweeping. It's really hard to watch where you're going, run sideways, and sweep at the same time. And you really have to put a lot of pressure on the ice to melt it. Which I thought it was just just kind of you're really just going at it. And yeah, I wasn't so good at that. I've done a lot. So that was fun. Yeah. I think about you about that. I think you were the one who got me into it. I was like, I should try curling. That's crazy. There's a curling rink here.
Yeah, and I kind of did it as, something that I guess check off my bucket list, right? To tell people that I've curled. Similar to you, I went to a Learn to Curl event, and then had a moment where I was like, wow, this was a lot of fun. I could devote some time to this. So, and we have a great club here, so it's been a lot of fun.
Oh, man. So after college, what were your plans when you were graduating? What did you do right after college?
So I like to describe that I pretty quickly had the 2-body problem. So my boyfriend at the time, who's now my husband, so that worked out great. He was an engineer, and it was 2003. So he had a stack of job offers, quite frankly. And I had less than that. And so we both wanted to end up in the same area. So he started to hone in on a job that he was going to take in the Baltimore area in Maryland. And so then I started focusing my job search in that area. Was looking at lots of opportunities, was looking at some opportunities in sales for, with someone with an animal science background. A lot of times you look at sales positions for animal nutrition and animal health companies. So I was looking at some sales positions, but then also had sort of the start of that research bug, but didn't have a ton of research experience. So wanted to look at opportunities where I could get some research experience. And through a faculty member whose class I was taking at Cornell, kind of was having this conversation with her, and she said, well, I have a colleague who runs a lab in conservation biology at the National Zoo in Washington, D.C. Let me reach out to him and see, the status of their program. I know they hire interns for the summer and whatnot. So got in touch with that lab. and just happened, you know, the stars aligned and they had an open position in their lab. And so I took it, and that meant that my husband and I could relocate together. And he worked up in Baltimore. I worked down in DC for a while, and it ended up being a great opportunity to really have a full-time real position in research, also learn about conservation biology and the inner workings of how that research happens, and see behind the scenes at the National Zoo is also really cool. And so, you know, without prioritizing that we wanted to relocate together, I might never have happened upon that position. And so I definitely encourage students who are maybe even getting ready to end their programs and thinking about what the next steps are. Don't be afraid to be honest about what your priorities are. You never know what's going to happen and what might be around the corner, and it might, you know, lead to something really exciting that you never would have envisioned. So at the time, you know, I had that internal dialogue with myself about like, well, should I really be like just looking in this area because I know he's moving there, and it really all ended up working out. And like I said, it gave me experience that I wouldn't have had if I hadn't just known, yeah, let's just focus on that.
What was some of the decisions that were and choices that were really important to you when you were picking a college and a place to go to grad school?
Yeah. Well, so when I chose where I was going to do my master's degree, I had a research position in the animal science department there, and you know, had been working in positions in research long enough that I knew I wanted to do a graduate program. And so then started talking to faculty members about their research and what kind of projects they had going on. And so for me, I got to kind of know the different faculty members and the areas that they worked, and kind of just honed in on the lab that I wanted to be in. And then when I was choosing where to do my PhD, it was the research area. So I studied lactation biology for my master's, but the lab that I was working in milked mice for their model, as I know you're an expert mouse milker as well. And because that was the research model that they used. I mentioned before kind of how do you answer the research questions that you're trying to ask, and the best, most effective way they could do that was by using mice. And so while I was fundamentally like attempting to answer questions about lactation as it might relate to dairy cows, like ultimately I was using mice. And so I wanted more hands-on experience with dairy cows. I wanted more, you know, research that was even closer to the dairy industry and helping dairy producers. And so the animal science department at Cornell is really well known for that. And so obviously that was a pretty obvious choice. But then I think it really sealed the deal for me when I started talking to faculty members in the department, and really just connected really well with Dr. Tom Overton, who ended up being my advisor, and realized that not only would it be a great opportunity for me to get the research experience that I wanted in the subject matter that I was really interested in, but then would just be a really great learning environment as well. So those things together made me realize that the right place for me would be to go back to Cornell and work in the Overton lab.
So are there any skills from your graduate school days that have directly transferred to your work at Elanco?
Yes, daily. So I actually, the work that I start when I joined Elanco 8 years ago, I was working as a research scientist on our dairy development team. So then I was very much even using the sort of day-to-day science technical background that I have. I'm now mostly focused on companion animal projects. So while I'm not reaching back into the part of my brain that remembers dairy cattle metabolism, I am on a daily basis using the problem-solving skills that I developed, the hypothesis development skills, even the study design skills that I was able to foster during my graduate programs. So yeah, those are the skills I use on a daily basis today.
What is one thing that really surprises you that you didn't anticipate working with Elanco?
I think one of the things I've really come to appreciate is the diversity of the projects I've been able to work on, as well as the people that I get to work with. So although I've been, focused on roles within product development, within research and development, I'm interacting with people in marketing, in sales, in manufacturing, and learning about their parts of the business and what they need to be successful. And so I'm able to flex other parts of my brain besides just the science piece. And I didn't appreciate the opportunity that I would have to do that, nor did I realize that I would enjoy it as much as I do. But I love just the diversity of the teams that I'm on, and that I get to work with people from all across the company.
Oh, that's really cool. I bet you're really good at that. You have really great interpersonal skills. So are there any skills from your graduate school days that have directly transferred to your work at Elanco?
Yes, daily. So I actually, the work that I start when I joined Elanco 8 years ago, I was working as a research scientist on our dairy development team. So then I was very much even using the sort of day-to-day science technical background that I have. I'm now mostly focused on companion animal projects. So while I'm not reaching back into the part of my brain that remembers dairy cattle metabolism, I am on a daily basis using the problem-solving skills that I developed, the hypothesis development skills, even the study design skills that I was able to foster during my graduate programs. So yeah, those are the skills I use on a daily basis today.
What is one thing that really surprises you that you didn't anticipate working with Elanco?
I think one of the things I've really come to appreciate is the diversity of the projects I've been able to work on, as well as the people that I get to work with. So although I've been, focused on roles within product development, within research and development, I'm interacting with people in marketing, in sales, in manufacturing, and learning about their parts of the business and what they need to be successful. And so I'm able to flex other parts of my brain besides just the science piece. And I didn't appreciate the opportunity that I would have to do that, nor did I realize that I would enjoy it as much as I do. But I love just the diversity of the teams that I'm on, and that I get to work with people from all across the company.
Oh, that's really cool. I bet you're really good at that. You have really great interpersonal skills. So what's next for you? Do you have any besides dealing with COVID?
Yeah.
But do you have any other big goals?
I think that my motivation lies in how I can continue to be influential and make a positive impact, right? So it matters less to me what my title is, or even what the specific context is anymore. But, is a team depending on me, or is leadership depending on me to deliver in things that are really impactful? Am I making a difference? Am I delivering value? I think those are what really drive me and motivate me, and kind of would drive me to look for the next thing. But you know, what specifically that is less important to me, which probably totally just dodged your question, but at least helps understand my motivation.
No, I think that's really powerful. I know for kids that are probably in high school, they just think of like the end point of like, oh, I want to be an engineer, or I want to be a single scientist. And that's all and great. But there's other ways that you can find really deep meaning in your life, because there are things that are really important besides just career and having the job and the salary. Is it a place that you feel like you belong and you can thrive? Can you connect to people? So I think it's really powerful that you said that. So no, I think you did answer my question. I have another big one. If you could go back in time and give your high school self some advice, what would it be?
It would definitely be, and it'll sound very cliche, but it's all going to work out. So I think each decision point that we reach in our life, and I still do this, you know, you have a major decision to make, and you feel like that decision that you're going to make on that day is like going to set all the dominoes in place for the X number of years, right? So like, if I don't get into this college, then, you know, I'm going to not have the career that I need or want. If I do get into this college, like, then I'll be able to get into this graduate school, which then I'll be able to have this career at this place, and then I'll retire and, you know, at X age. But the reality is, you don't know what the next decision point is going to look like, right? So, nor what you're going to get exposed to and love in the interim. So I think, you know, when I was in high school, right, I had that vision that, well, I'm going to, you know, go to a school and do a bachelor's program, and then I'm going to go to vet school, and, you know, I'm going to be a vet, and maybe even, you know, in this area, geographic area. And none of that came to fruition, right? Yet I can honestly say that I love my job. I love my career. It gets me out of bed every morning. I'm totally engaged in with it. I love, it's really fulfilling to me. Yet I didn't even know that this role even existed when I was in high school. So yeah, just to tell myself that it's all going to work out probably better than you could have imagined. And just use the information that you have at that given point to make what you feel is the best decision at the time, and resist the urge to just think that it's going to set this like magical roadmap in place, because the map's going to change.
Wow, that was very insightful. I don't think that's cliche. No, that's really cool. So do you have any other last parting words?
Well, probably around what I just shared, right? So try to just use the information you have at hand when you're kind of approaching some of these decisions, and make the best decision for you at the time. And be very honest with yourself, as I mentioned before, about what your priorities are and what's really important to you. What are your core values that you want to uphold, and leverage your network. So really spend time building relationships with people. Every job that I've had has been because I had a connection with someone, either directly or indirectly. So, you know, leverage your network, talk to people about what they do, because that serves you in two ways too. It helps more people know about you and what your strengths are and what you're interested in. But then it also allows you to kind of pick their brain about what their job is like and what their career is like. And you may uncover something that you didn't know existed, and you might get really excited about, right? So yeah, make the decisions as they come at you, have your priorities and values, and leverage your network.
That's cool.
And have fun too.
Yeah.
Have fun.
Learn how to curl. Go to a hockey game.
Yes. Because you're right. Those are the memories that that you'll take with you. You won't remember cramming for an exam, right? You'll remember the, you know, celebratory dinner that you had with your friends afterwards, right?
I still have nightmares of my dissertation defense. Yeah, that comes up every now and then. But yeah, no, other than that, I don't remember grading for exams. At that moment, yes, I mean, but that's a 3-hour ordeal.
Yeah, that's a big one. That's a big one.
Yeah, that's a big thing. Cool. Well, I really appreciate your time. This has been awesome just to reconnect with you.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah. So thanks so much.
You bet. Anytime. Happy to always connect with students, with anybody who wants to chat about careers. It's one of my favorite topics. So I appreciate you reaching out to me.
Awesome. Thank you.